Yeah, getting seated soon, and we'll just open it up with the fact that I'm Josh, and this is Kelly, and we think of ourselves as humus beings from Earth, here to save and help. But most importantly, we really have a tremendous amount of respect for everyone that's here, like Chris said, and everyone that's up here. Life is a work in progress. None of us know everything. That's the purpose of the community, is to come together so we can all learn and bring something to the table so that we can make the world a better place. I was born in Medford here in Southern Oregon. My dad went to high school right here. I went to the same place. It's beautiful to be here. Been a part of this culture for my whole life, and watched these hills go through a lot of stuff over the years, and I feel really passionate about this movement and this Back to the Land movement and this cannabis movement and this family, and I feel really blessed to be here, and I'm going to let Kelly talk for a minute, and thank you very much.
So we didn't really know what we're going to talk about until right now, and it just seemed like that is the best flow for us. So a lot of people were asking us today about where we came from, maybe, and how we got involved in this sort of movement. And I put my first cannabis plant in the ground in 1990 up in Alaska. And it was the king of the Alaska Thunderfuck, Johnny Appleseed, and you hike out 2 days to the patches of several thousand plants, and you're not being able to carry anything out there, and there's no grow stores that give you the opportunity to buy bat guano. I mean, I didn't even know what bat guano was back then. You have to utilize what's there. And then that teaching took me and Josh together. Today, this is actually our 25th anniversary this weekend.
April Fool's Day, by the way. We're fools.
And then we just decided that we had a child. I was into herbalism. I was into the healing of the body. I became a midwife. And through that teaching, I have always been a gardener. And for some reason, we never really separated the two. Herbalism for human beings, what heals us on a deep level through plants, is also what's going to heal your plants and your gardens. So we never separated the two. If there's an illness in our garden, then we're going to treat it in the same way that we would treat ourselves. And so then we moved up to British Columbia, and we became guerrilla cannabis farmers up there because we just wanted to check out of the US and move far away with our newborn son. And we were a 7-hour hike out into the wilderness, and it took us about 10 days to find the spot. And it's important to talk about that because it wasn't like we brought the soil to the plants. We brought the plants to the soil. And that's the most important part of growing and cultivating. So when we were looking for a spot to put our huge cannabis farm, we were looking for a nettle slide. We were looking for a spot that has wonderful deciduous trees around it, and maybe an avalanche that's come down, and we're going to see tons of yarrow and nettles and all of these weeds that we know are wonderful indicators for the soil, and that's going to grow a beautiful cannabis plant. So we were unable to bring any nutrients out there, so the nutrients had to be made. We could always bring out, a garbage can. So we'd always pile up some garbage cans and then make all of our nutrients out. Oh, good. Yep, so while we're talking, we're just going to show you sort of pictures of where we came from and then things that we find inspirational. And if there's anything that is interesting to you, you can come and ask us about it afterward. So that journey 25 years ago has brought us to now, and we haven't really changed any of our growing practices, even though we may have things that are available to us. and the idea of us becoming completely closed loop so that we don't have to go anywhere. We're not going to a grocery store for our food. We're not going to a grow store for any of our nutrients. Everything is created in-house. And it's interesting too because we're Dragonfly Earth Medicine and we own a nutrient company. And I'm telling all of you guys not to use nutrients. Make your own. Create a closed loop regenerative cycle on your farm, which means that every drop, you drop that stone in a pond, and you're not looking at the first splash. It's really exciting to see the first splash of what that stone creates. But how many ripples go out afterward? What, if you're gonna add bat guano, where did that bat guano come from? I'm just using this as an example. Where did that bat guano come from? What is the carbon footprint on that bat guano? And then when you add it, what is that going to do to the microbiology that's already there on your land? The microbiology that's already thriving. And what you want to do is you want to become a steward to that.
Yeah. So the dedication was made from the beginning, the dedication of we're going to be natural human beings. We're going to have our child at home. We're going to breastfeed. We're going to homeschool. Our son's 20 years old now. He's a downhill professional mountain biker in New Zealand, ready to do a professional race. It's amazing. But he was grown up in the garden. We never did the separation of, you know, this is what we do and this is adult stuff. You know, he needed to grow up with us. We're growing up too. We're still evolving. So we also knew that food was the basis of our existence, that our own true health really came from food. So we never just had a cannabis garden. From the very moment that we started, we were automatically growing food. We were living far away in the mountains. We did disaster relief work, so we would grow, and then we would take our child homeschooled to different parts of the world, and we involved ourselves with disaster relief while we were doing midwifery. So we would do midwifery in other parts of the world. We started learning about agriculture. How does it affect human health? We're looking at placentas. We're looking at women having babies. And what does the placenta look like? What does the umbilical cord look like? What were they eating? Was it GMO rice? Is GMO rice the green revolution? Is it actually worth a Nobel Peace Prize because you just expanded the population? So we recognize, for us, regenerative is the act of generating life, and so much of our society and everything is a strip culture. We have logging, it strips and burns and replants and even uses chemicals to stop weeds from growing. Antibiotics strip our bodies, strip our intelligence, strip our digestive tract, which doesn't help us think well. So we just recognize that the natural systems from the very beginning, aiding in each progression into the flower of life cycle, is so important. And we've lost family members, you know, and you can think what you want, and you can use chemical fertilizer, you can have money be your one thing that matters, but in the end, someone's sick, and they're your family members, and why are they sick? And then it becomes a passion. So that's part of our living like this was to be respectful of where we came from and be that change, and know that we had the support of nature and other community members that have done it. So it wasn't scary for us, it was empowering.
And I think I'll just jump off of what Josh was saying about soil and health. My mother just passed a month ago, and we were with her when she passed. And she wasn't anyone who was involved in farming or anything like that. But one of her last words or statements was, she said, "I'm going to pray for the flowers, and I'm going to pray and accept all the problems of the soil." And she died about an hour after that. And that spun me into so much of what it is that we're here talking to you about. Is I feel and I know that the soil is our life, and without it, we can't be healthy. And she was giving me a beautiful key as to maybe why she was ill or maybe why the sickness is on the planet today. Did you all know that when you take probiotics, a lot of lactobacilluses and the bifiduses and that sort of stuff stay in the upper intestinal tract for about 72 hours. So you have to continue re-inoculating your body with yogurts and all these wonderful good microbiology that will help your digestive tract. Soil microbiology, which is missing in a tremendous amount of people who have colitis, people who are dealing with intestinal issues, people that have cancer. If we test the microbiology in the blood of those people, what we're all really missing is what's also in the soil. So I really recommend to people to get to know your soil. This is all about creating relationships. We need to have relationships with our plants. We need to have relationships with the people that are working with them. We need to have a relationship with our soil and a deep relationship. Like, you got to roll around on your soil. You got to see what it feels like. If you haven't had a mushroom journey in your own, garden yet, do it. It's time. We can reach other levels here. I don't think it's just a good idea to connect. I think it's our survival. And I think that you all in this room are 300 people who are given this amazing gift to be a representative of this incredible medicinal, powerful plant. You all have to remember that when you put that seed in the ground, everything that it grows is going to be ingested by a human being. How do you want to affect that human being? When that plant goes in the ground, that's your intention. You're thinking about who that is going to affect. People are going to be smoking that every day. And you have a wonderful opportunity to be a voice for this master plant and for her to be able to regenerate into the world to heal. And that's why we're all here. And I just want to remind you all to have a deeper relationship with this master plant.
And we recognize people have to make a living, and we know that it's hard now, and we know that recreational is not fun, it's not funny, and it's not fun, and it's not really growing in a sense. You have to go through a year, really, even more, before you can actually genuinely start your farm for some, and that's something. But it's also still an opportunity. And as you're creating your business, a lot of us think of our business or the goals a lot of times in our culture, it's a pyramid. It's you have your base, your family, and your health, and your well-being, and your garden, and everything. At the end, it's money. I need money, and that's real. But what if it's not a pyramid? What if it's a circle? What if it's a dharma? What if it's a wheel? What if it's a dharma wheel, and our value systems change? What if it's not just money that actually propels us forward? What if it's the well-being of our community? What if our food that we're eating, the fact we have to drive to the store, what if we did 5% of a food on our own property? I mean, you don't have to jump in and be like, I grow 100% of my food. It's not even that. You can just be like, I planted potatoes this year and it's amazing. So you start somewhere, you work. No one is a regenerative farmer overnight. You're not creating living soils in 2 days or 10 minutes. It's a lifestyle, and regenerative is a concept. You put that regenerative mindset into everything you do. You put it into your child, you put it into your inner child, your family, your plants, and you think, none of us are perfect. We're on the grid. We would like to be off the grid. I could walk all of you around my land right now, and I would feel unhappy about some of it. I would feel like I wish I did more, and I feel like some things might be broken. I'm trying to fix them. And that's why it's just respectful that we're on a journey. That journey is one step at a time, and we can make a really difference. So the Dharma wheel, it's the concept that money is part of it, health is part of it, food is part of it, our family's part of it. We can make up other parts, but without it being totally symmetrical, it doesn't roll. We're not rolling. I mean, at this moment in time, there is mass extinctions happening. There are marine die-offs. There's not just the Gulf of Mexico, but there's probably over 100 dead zones in the ocean around the world. We have reached the tipping point. There's no moment that we know that, oh shit, you know, now is when we start. We have to start yesterday. So do what you can now. Biodiversity, you know, people talk about pests and bugs and molds and all that and healthy soils. Grow more plants. Just grow more. I mean, we create lots of drawings, and a lot of that is meant to stimulate your mind, body, and soul, and to create ideas. This right here is a kinship map, and that is the ancestral, from the ancestral seed of evolution to all of the different family members that make up all plant life on Earth. And you can make kinship gardens, or maybe not, but you can take this as your moment of saying, I have one representation of all families on my land. Cannabis, Cannabaceae, cannabis. I made up that there's 420 there, by the way. I think there probably is. And I talked to Alan Capular about it, he agrees. So that's, but the number underneath each family is the amount of species that are there, as we know. And genetic sequencing has changed, and it was based off physical characteristics in the beginning. From Linnaeus, from the 1700s, there was physical characteristics put on plants, but now since genomic sequencing, we have a knowledge that it's deeper than just characteristics. Maybe it's pollen, maybe it's reproductive, maybe there's different parts. But now we know more about that evolution, and we can put science together with nature. We can try and create our natural systems and use science. We're not scientists, we use science, but we use observation. Observation the most. So, you know, we're kind of radical. You know, we don't have a normal farm. You know, we have a very diverse farm, and we believe that it's interesting, that it wakes us up every day. When we walk through, you know, one garden, we're in a whole type of mindset. When we walk through another garden, we're in a whole type of mindset, and we really love the stimulation of being able to have it all together. So, I guess I would like to start now by saying one of the things that really blew us up on the land was being able to make our own nutrients like this. And to have different kinds of soil on your property is a benefit. It doesn't all have to be the most rich, healthy soil in the world. There's different plants that grow out of different types of soil, and you can use those plants as allies to transform your soil. So if you have certain soils that aren't so good, use a plant that remediates that soil. There's certain plants that grow out of straight manure. There's certain plants that don't like any manure. So you have an opportunity to use your land, and right now is a time to vibe out on design and how you're gonna do it. And I think it's really important for us to plant more trees and to think about pollinators. It's not just bees, it's flies, it's moths, it's butterflies, it's a lot of things we don't know. And the only thing that's gonna save us is diversity in our minds, and our bodies, and our souls, and our soils.
So I didn't really know if I was going to tell you all this story, but I'm definitely going to do it. I'm going for it. So on our birthdays, we're born in September, really close together. We decided that we were going to have some friends over, and we were going to take a psychedelic journey and get really, you know, involved with our gardens and on a full moon night and all of that. So we did do that, and I went into the greenhouse, and you know, we grow really huge monster plants, and they all turned into these beautiful Amazonian creature mothers with dripping fruit trays and just full of beauty and unbelievable grace. And I just said, wow, we made it through this year. That was the year of the broadmite. That was the year of like washing plants for 12 hours a day. It worked, and we figured out a lot of stuff. But I went in there, and the plants basically said to me, you don't do for us. Just get that straight. You don't do for us. We do for you. And then I saw every single cannabis plant on the entire world And it made me think about her incredible resiliency. She's had all kinds of laws and legislations on her. And I just want to remind you all again, this plant has given us all so much. Now is the time to give back, and you all are the power of this industry. Southern Oregon is an amazing place. And the growers that are here from Northern California and Southern Oregon, you all are the leaders. You all are her voice. Now is time to give back. It's imperative.
We chose to go to British Columbia in '98 for the sole purpose of growing ganja, because we thought that was a hell of a good idea, because we thought we really loved it so much. And there was this like militant kind of vibe down here for a really long time, and in Northern California, because that was like that whole protection mode. And that's the revolutionary quality that lives down here, and I get it. I totally get it. I also really love peace. And I like the idea of being naked in my ganja patch and fully, being in the wind and being like with my plants, and we were able to do that. And by doing that, we're walking to our patch in our bare feet, and we're using weeds to feed our plants. It's powerful. It's powerful. We chose the piece of land. We did this on purpose. It's far away. Minimal people make it there. It's pure as it gets from our point of view. There's still chemtrails and there's crazy things that come out of the sky, and it makes our plants unhealthy, and that's nerve-wracking a lot of times. But we chose a piece of land that has mountain spring water. Our land has mountain spring water above our house, and every bit of water on our land is gravity fed. We've made all of our tea houses. This is our favorite person in the world. This is Vince. He's 70 years old. In his 70s, he's an Irish horse farmer, born peasant farmer, cow herder in Ireland. Moved to Canada when he was young, to Eastern Canada, lived on giant farms, came out to British Columbia early 70s in our community, Quaker community, peace-loving Quaker community, subsistence farming-loving community. He moved there in the 70s, and he squatted a piece of land. He squatted a clear cut. He still lives in it, earth house, all land, and he works every single day. He's traveled the world, knows spiritual things. So for us, we just feel like, thank you, Vince, because you really teach us so much about being an earth-loving being. And using compost and using animals and using animals wisely. People can say animals are a problem, and the way that they're being used right now is a problem. But anyway, our forest is filled with medicinal mushrooms. There's these are not everything's medicinal. Food is medicinal, but so initially when we started growing, we were using weeds, and we were doing it the wrong way by letting weeds sit in water for a week to 2 weeks at a time and just turn into a disgusting mess. That smelled like the ocean at low tide or whatever it is, because nettles actually totally smell like the ocean when they melt, and it does work. It's crazy. You wouldn't believe it, but and the growth hormones that come from live weeds, it's like drinking live juice, like cancer diets. It's all about live juice because it just goes into your body and flushes and keeps you healthy. The growth hormones that you find in weeds, there's nothing like it. So weeds, are they invasive, or are they a gift from nature? Because anything that's invasive has growth hormones, and growth hormones turn into bigger plants. But that's when we started going to Hawaii and Kauai in the north end, and that's when Master Cho and the whole northern natural farming came into our life. It was in 2008, and we really loved being on the farm, and we really loved the idea that we could use probiotic fermenting cultures to really stabilize our teas. So now our teas don't smell, and it's better, So this is what my tea house looks like right at this moment. and it can be, there's lots of tea houses, but let's say there's 200-300-gallon containers right next to each other. You can cut the top out of both of them. There's a stump in front of one with a machete, and you can go and gather roots, fruits, seeds, weeds, leaves, shoots, whatever you want, and chop it up. Expose the blood, the plant blood, the life force, put it in the water. You can go get natural indigenous microorganisms in the form of weeds, or you can set hay on the ground and let the hay rot, and then when you pick the hay up, you're just like, oh, it's white, it's living, it's expanding the colony. So I'm using that colony now in my water because it's already fermenting and breaking down weeds. It's going to do the same thing in the water. So you can take leaf duff and grass, the top layer of the stuff, or EM, or make your own lactic acid bacteria. Chop it up, let it sit for 7 days, at least. And then you can come back and you'll see this crazy film on top of the water, which is like holographic. And that's like the silica, the holographic silica comes to the top. And then you can just take a bucket, you can make a wire mesh over the other one, and you can just filter the water from one to the other. And then you can add a little compost to that and aerate and activate it, because the facultative microbes will live in an anaerobic cycle, but they'll also, the right ones, with the ones that we want to propagate adaptogenic microbes, because we need to adapt, so we need more adaptogenic organisms. So then we activate it and feed it to the plants. So what, you want to just do water all summer? Fine, that's great. But there's also other plants. There's also like trees. So you can just take all your extra weed water, which is free, and just takes your own energy, and just water the land. Why does it around your greenhouse to be dead? It doesn't really. It can be totally living and thriving, and it can be part of your biodiversity. I don't know if you want to add something.
And I guess this is a good time to change the subject. I've been thinking a lot about, managing death to help with life. And as a gardener, as a farmer, I kill about 100 plants to the one plant that I would like to survive. What am I doing with all of that waste material? I know that harvest is really difficult in the fall and the rains are coming, and our focus is really on the flowers and getting them all in and trimmed up for the market. But if we haven't taken care of the death part of that process, which is the plant, all of the leaves and everything, and haven't composted it properly or haven't dealt with it, then that is one of the largest losses of your entire season. Because all of those leaves from your previous cannabis crop have already sequestered and put up all of the nutrients that you want to feed your next year's plants. The intelligence is already there. It's so important. Regenerative means to take that intelligence and bring it to the next year, so then that can become more intelligent. And our goal is to be able to, Josh was talking about the Dharma wheel, is to be paying attention to every part of those. I really encourage you all to draw out one before you start your season. What is it that's important to you? And then make sure that you've got equal percentages on that Dharma wheel. And that's the same with your farm. You can't have a separation of it. So everything on your farm is dealt with. Everything is going back into itself. There's no waste. There's no trash. And when you don't bring anything in, then you don't need to haul anything out either. And then that's where the true biological intelligence comes from. And like Josh said, this isn't regenerative farming or becoming a regenerative lifestyle. It doesn't happen in one season. It's, years. But it's the journey that is so exciting. So maybe we should open up for questions. There's so much to talk about. Oh my God. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah. That's really kind. Thank you. And I think that, I'd like to sort of take all that wonderful thing that you said about us and pass it on to Mother Nature, because she's totally our mentor. If you have to question it, it's the wrong choice, just so you know. Anything that you're bringing onto your property and you're like, I wonder about this. Also, we could go into a whole rabbit hole about, certifications, OMRI certification. You guys need to do your homework. You can't just rely on an organic certification. That organic certification is brought to you by the FDA. I don't know how you guys feel, but I don't know. I'm not gonna go that route. So it's up to us, because a lot of these people in this room, you're all educators. Do the work, do the education. Just because it's OMRI certified doesn't mean that it's organic. It just means that it's registered for possible organic use. Don't count on certifications and what other people tell you. Don't even listen to me. Go out and find out for yourself. That's how we all become empowered, and then share it. Yeah. I would say, wow, bummer, you don't get to have that great relationship.
And also, there's a health and well-being. I mean, it's not just a good idea. It's reality. It's real. Your body is only as healthy as your soil. If you're going to buy you can buy processed food. That same person can go to the store and buy processed food while his neighbor is growing the most unbelievable, mythical, organic food in their yard. You can't make someone do anything. We're not up here telling you exactly what to do on your land. We're not providing you with. What we're trying to do is say, here's some ideas. We've done some things, and maybe it's inspirational to you. No one can change your mind like you. So I can't really talk to that person until they're ready to listen. Just like I can't even tell my parents that homeschooling's better than schooling. I have to, one, prove it, and the other thing is, it takes work. It's not going to just be that the person that bought that soil is a different person. I mean, not one's better than the other. I'm just saying, the person that said in the fall that I'm going to grow next year, they built their soil all winter and they used that soil on their farm. That's the difference. They're creating an environment. It's not just they're growing herb or they're growing wheat, they're growing an environment. So if they want to, they have the opportunity with their farm to not just grow ganja, for example. I mean, we can have the most balanced soil in the world, the most balanced nutrition diet, but we'll still be in a valley of monoculture. So we're still getting inundated by, pests and things that are coming in. So we have to do things that are extra, whether it's predator mites or whatever it is, but that's it. There's an out of balance. So what we're trying to do is tell people, create an oasis. I mean, if you're going to buy dirt because you need to have a dirt right now and you want to do, then make it last forever. Don't throw it away. I mean, so you used cocoa and peat. That sucks. But you did drive here in a car. It is real. You do use petrochemicals. We don't like butane hash oil. We don't like petrochemicals. We don't want to have anything to do with it, even if it's purged. I don't care if it's purged because I don't want to even start the process. So I'm just saying, the inspiration is just, that's the wheel. Once again, that person that just has the one soil is lopsided.
And then to talk on that, what if our bodies are this wonderful, warm host to microbiology? And what if microbiology outnumbers us by billions and billions and billions and billions? And what if we know that it started with microbiology and we know that it's going to end with microbiology? What if we create a relationship with the beneficial microbiology? And what if that beneficial microbiology is intelligent? What if it's more intelligent than we are? What if it gives us intelligence? What if working with wonderful, healthy, amazing soil that has perfect microbiology in it and all of the right beneficials, and we're eating our carrots right out of the dirt? What if it inoculates us? And what if that is our true intelligence? It's just something to think about. And I really, truly believe that if we want to step to the next space and help encourage people to get to the next level, because it is our survival, we need to look to the beneficial microbiology, because they're the ones that have the answer. We're not going to give you any answers up here. We can only maybe give you some inspiration. But when you roll around in that dirt and you have that mushroom journey on your land, that's when the intelligence is going to come. Go with that one. Where are we at? Yeah, go ahead. Well, I think that what we do very often is a great question. So the question is, how do we balance what we're talking about up here with recreational that's going on and all of the, money that you all need to put into it and everything that you're, it's a journey. What's happening down here with recreational, and I know that you all are putting an incredible amount of paperwork and a lot of your brain work into it, and it seems like a real waste of energy. Hopefully, it's gonna end in a good place. That's all that we can hope for. But I feel like we just put too darn much pressure on the plant. Gosh darn it. We're asking her to produce more than she's ever produced, but are we giving her what she deserves to be able to produce that much? I would say no. So lessen your inputs. Put a buck in and get $10 out. Make it so your success is not based just on money or the 22-pound plant that you're growing. Your success is that you saved, which is cool. 22-pound plants are awesome. Awesome. So, but that you saved $500 in potatoes. That you grew some potatoes. So maybe spread it out a little bit. And maybe the focus isn't just on one thing. And I know that it's really challenging and difficult right now, but you don't need to spend $10,000 on nutrients right off the get-go. What if you only spend $500? And then you don't need to put as much pressure on your plants that year. Then you're like, okay, girls, we're starting out slow. And then, but we'll be successful. But, our success is going to come 10 years from now. So slow growth, I think, is going to win the race.
Right now. And what we've been told by people in the recreational world and grow stores is 75% failure rate in recreational farms in Washington. 75% of the 100% of people that tried to start a farm are bankrupt and now working at McDonald's. I'm just saying. joke, but that sucks. Yes, my mind goes to the place of, wow, the system is creating the failure. And honestly, we left that system a long time ago, and now it's like back again, and it's kind of like, all right, well, yeah, is it medicinal or is it recreational, or is recreational always medicinal? I don't know. I think with recreational farms, like I said before, you lose the loving feeling. So it's really hard to bring back the loving feeling when you have a fence around your farm and you have cameras all over the place and laminates and everyone's robed and qualified and there. It's really hard to say, okay, cool, so we're gonna go plant marigolds. But what if one of the 10 people that work with you, or 5, what if for 2 hours out of the day they do plant marigolds, or they go weed, or they go plant cover crop, or they do whatever they is? What if driving up to your indoor facility, the whole parking lot is covered in flowers, and the lunch area is an arbor with wisteria and grapes growing around it? So I'm just saying, on your recreational farm, so maybe you don't grow all your food like you do, but try and grow some. So this year, on your recreational farm, try. And if you have any questions, and if we can help you, we will. We are not trying to be professional, we're trying to be real. We're wanting to be like you and you like us. We want to be sharing all of the good ideas, because good ideas are not for keeping. Good ideas are for propagation, for regeneration.
Yeah, go ahead. Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of dedicated people in this room, and that's the focus. Incredible amount of dedicated people here. I mean, how dedicated are we? We're like, it's not raining outside, and all of you are sitting in here. How many people are like, oh my God, my seedlings? And yeah, you're here. This is an incredible dedication. I mean, I guess I could go into lots of. Oh, oh.
If you do.
Do your best. Yeah. Yeah. And just think about that, like I was talking about at the beginning, that drop. Right.
But they don't always have a reason to not spray. Know your farmer.
Yeah.
It's not just for cannabis. That's another thing. Omri listing, like, oh, Omri did all the work. See you later. I got 30 cents a pound. Whatever it is, that's not real, because the real is knowing the farmer. because even the certification is not enough. It's not enough unless you know. So some of the hay farmers and the alfalfa farmers, they don't have a reason. They don't know. They don't have a. If we're sitting here like, check it out, I'll buy it all. I have a community of really amazing people that we all really care. It matters to us because it's not just about our product that we bought. It grew in nature. It grew. It had to be produced somewhere. While it was being produced, it needs to be, from our perspective, a healthy thing. That's why we created the peer certification. It's a certification outside of the box. It's a community certification. We decide as a community what makes sense. We're trying to achieve purity. It's probably like regenerative. We may never achieve it, but it's a goal. So knowing your farmer, trying to use more plants than animals, but if we have animals, there's a beneficial way of doing it. But anyway, yeah. Teas. That's why I drew that thing about 2-story tea house. You can have your tea out, just build it up 8 feet, and then you have to have a roof. So then catch water off your roof, let it go in your tea. It's gravity fed. You don't have to have, and I don't really like plastic tea containers. All my tea containers are plastic. I want like maybe concrete ones or something. Like, what's better? But I would like to have maybe a concrete one, that I could stir everything up and put concrete up on an 8-foot thing. It's like, uh-oh. But maybe a stainless steel container, whatever it is, we're trying. We're asking ourselves questions.
You're always just getting better, one step at a time. You're like, oh, last year I did that. This year, you know what? I can do that better. I'm going to do that better. And I think that having all eyes also on your farm, a lot of people now with the huge rec farms are having to hire a lot of people. If you are not all eyes on, if you're not convening with your soil on an everyday basis, you have a broken relationship. And that's what I was talking about from the beginning. Draw out your Dharma wheel. Figure out what parts you want to put in and what's important to you. And all of those relationships are equal. And if you fulfill all those relationships, guaranteed you're going to have a healthy soil. Because it just comes along with it. It's a lifestyle. It's a new thought process of I can do better.
And regenerative is an old term. And it's before the nuclear age, before fertilizers and antibiotics and all that. It was mostly regenerative, unless it was, there's always been toxins, but anyway. Go ahead. It's true, and we have our close family members just coming back from Spain, and they went to Spanibus, the world's largest cannabis expo. It's not amazing. It's not amazing over there. It's fun and cool to go to, and it's always great. But this is the real deal right here. Like, this is the goods, so, and all of the people in here room, we all care this much to be here and try and make this better thing happen. So we're using mostly inspirational talk right here, but we are happy to go into any technical aspects of indoor growing and outdoor growing and all of that on a later moment in time through emails and stuff. But please. It depends on the plant. I mean,
and then it's going to be broken up a little bit in there, and you just syringe directly. Don't want to get rid of that. That's just all pure.
this is an important part about fermentation and bokashi and LABs and EMs. They're naturally acidic, and they're done when they're acidic. So it's an acidic anaerobic beneficial compound. You're not going to eat a whole plate of sauerkraut for dinner. no matter how good it is for you, it's too much. It's going to overdo it. It's going to change your pH. You know, your whole micro life will change if you do too much of a drench of a fermented tea, you know, or something like that. So, you know, the thing about organic farming and all that is like, I don't pH. It's all good all the time. And that's fine. And usually probably it is, you know, and when we taste our teas almost every time, you know, we go there, we put our hands and we taste it. You know, we drink Radiant Green, our product Radiant Green, we drink it every morning in apple juice and water. So we're drinking our same thing. It's not just like a good idea. It's something we do it every day. And so, yeah, the natural fermentation of this. So there's a balance to it. Potentially the fermentation lasts all year. You can have a continuous open fermenting situation going on once you have the right ratios, and I do totally suggest getting a microscope, and it is really awesome looking through you're looking at your teas. You can see everything swimming around and knowing what your balances are, you know, by doing that. But sometimes I clean it out too. Like I'll have like half to 3/4 of the whole container just totally packed with weeds and everything, and it's just like it's hard. I can't even spin it, you know. It's just like sitting there. So I'm pushing it down and adding more water. I'll even like put a hose into it and a hose out of it, and just water for 2 hours. The whole entire water in, water out, and just someone can just sit there and go like this the whole time to just kind of keep it mixed. It's like a never-ending tea. It never ends. But you can also be like, I want to aerate this, because the point of aeration is to build colonies. So you have beneficial colonies. In your anaerobic fermentation, you have everything kind of like blah, you know, and then you want to put it in and they could go like blah, like wow, you know. So, you know, overnight, just overnight bubbling, overnight bubbling. Yeah. Fungi comes in length of time. So a fast brew, the first thing to bloom is generally bacteria. And then the next thing that eats bacteria to bloom after that is fungi. So and it's not mycorrhiza, because mycorrhiza does not grow in a tea brew. Mycorrhiza grows on plant roots. So put mycorrhiza on roots. But yeast strands and fungal strands come in teas that last long. So when you have long teas and then you activate them, you know, there's the balance.
If it tastes good and it smells good, it usually is good. And I do encourage you to get a microscope, because it's just an awesome rabbit hole to go down and share with your friends. Like, whoa, that was awesome, and then find out what that's all about. And then you're just learning more. And the good thing is that we didn't have a microscope for a lot of years. Maybe we've had a microscope for about 10 years now, but for the first 15, we didn't have a microscope. And it was really cool, just all the observational research and intuitive work that we had been doing all of those years. I really did figure out that tasting it and smelling it is actually right. If it tastes totally like neutral, it is neutral. You know, you don't have pH strips or whatever, and it's good to double up with pH strips and utilize science, but don't let go of your intuition, because you've got these little cool tools. Continue with your intuition, because that's going to really be what leads you to success.
And carbon in the soil is also a lot of success. That's the purpose of midwifery in the mid-90s.
Yeah. The question was, did we study herbs to understand? Yes, we utilize herbology for plants. So I take all of the same practices that herbs offer to our human bodies, and oddly enough, they do the same thing with plants and soils. So I have an herbology degree, and I went into midwifery school, and yeah, and also mycology degree as well. But yeah, studying the plants is really important. And on the handouts that I gave you, I barely scratched the surface. I just gave you guys a few plants that you could plant. And once you plant a few, it's sort of cool, because then you want to plant more. And the cool thing about closed loops is once you have one closed loop, you're like, oh yeah, well this second closed loop is great, and you sort of become a closed loop addict, and that's awesome. So, oh, there's lots of great herbal books out there. So Susun Weed is a good one that you guys can check out. All of her books out there go in deep with herbology directed towards humans, and we can really direct it towards plants as well. Like, oh, I could go on and on. Feel free to ask us any questions too online. Like, we spend hours every day answering people's questions. We're really dedicated, and no question is silly. So.
We also brought gifts. We have incense for everyone. I hope we do. And this is what we have, so what we'd like to do is put it on the table. And when you light it, it's a blessing to your garden. And it's maybe us coming to your garden and being with you for a moment. And it's all natural, and it's really beautiful. We're really thankful. There's so many things we could. That's Garden Giants eating wood chips. That's sunflowers. That's your flower tea. Fibonacci. Thank you so much, and thank you, Chris, very much.